A freelance female TV host is being sued for making shocking comments about Melania Trump on live television. Clara Williams is a strong woman who stands out in the world of free television, where words have the power to shake the world. She has become one of the brightest stars of this wave of television with her live debate shows, unafraid to criticize everything from politics and society to sensitive topics. With her sharp hosting style and ability to deliver strong messages, Clara has gained a lot of fans but also made enemies. Her remarks often hit hard, like stones thrown at the faces of powerful people, and this time, she faced a fierce backlash from those defending Melania Trump's image. In a recent show, Clara appeared with a sharp tone and a defiant look in her eyes. She started voicing controversial opinions that few dared to publicly share. But can we really call Melania someone who contributes to society? As the wife of a man with many controversial views, she chose to stand by him without clearly expressing a stance or making any significant positive impact. Though these words could be seen as a question about her silence during the controversies caused by the president, they actually touched on sensitive issues regarding Melania's relationship with Donald Trump. Clara didn't stop there. She continued commenting that Melania's public appearances, even her few speeches, seemed more like background to the image of a president's wife rather than a person with influence or a clear stance on important issues. The audience responded with silence. No one dared speak up immediately. If it weren't for the tense atmosphere, it almost felt like the whole room was holding its breath. Clara could feel a shift in the air. To her, these changes were signs of a big debate to come. But she never imagined that her words would push things too far. The next day, news of the debate went viral on all media outlets. Clara's shocking comments about Melania Trump became the hot topic across news shows, newspapers, and social media platforms. Beneath the sensational headlines were screenshots of the show with quotes from Clara. Many people were upset by her words. Some believed Clara had crossed the line by publicly criticizing a woman who rarely appeared in public, especially when she was the wife of a powerful U.S. president. Supporters of Melania, along with some government staff, quickly called for legal action against Clara. A week after the broadcast, Melania Trump's lawyer, one of the most renowned public figure defense attorneys, officially filed a lawsuit against Clara for what was deemed slander and defamation. The lawsuit quickly drew public attention. Major newspapers ran stories about the case, not only because of its controversial nature, but also because of the influence of the people involved. A legal battle began, with Clara, once a symbol of free speech, now facing a real fight. Clara couldn't ignore the fact that her words, though defended under the banner of free speech, had crossed the line of respect for a public figure. But she also couldn't accept having her voice silenced just because the powerful wanted to protect their image. She wasn't someone who easily gave in to pressure. Clara started rallying support from those who shared her views on free speech and opposing efforts to muzzle the media. She also received backing from civil rights organizations who had faced similar lawsuits, arguing that in a democratic society, everyone has the right to speak out even if what they say is uncomfortable. A week after the broadcast, Melania Trump's lawyer, one of the most renowned public figure defense attorneys, officially filed a lawsuit against Clara for what was deemed slander and defamation. The case quickly caught the public's attention. Major newspapers across the country reported on the lawsuit, not only because of its controversial nature, but also because of the influential figures involved. A legal battle began where Clara, once a symbol of free speech, now had to face a real fight. Clara couldn't help but realize that her words, though defended as free speech, had crossed the line of respect for a public figure. But she couldn't accept having her voice silenced just because powerful people wanted to protect their image. She wasn't someone who would easily bend under pressure. Clara began rallying support from those who shared her views on free speech and standing against efforts to silence the media. She also received backing from civil rights organizations who had faced similar lawsuits, arguing that in a democratic society, everyone has the right to speak out even when it's something others may not like. However, Clara couldn't shake the feeling of worry. This wasn't just a debate about free speech or personal defamation rights. Behind the lawsuit was a clear political intervention in the media space. On the other side, Melania Trump's team had meticulously prepared for the lawsuit. Her lawyers didn't just focus on defamation, but also argued that Clara's comments had a negative impact on Melania's reputation, especially as she was trying to rebuild her image after political turmoil. They claimed that Clara had exploited her position to damage the dignity of a woman. Meanwhile, Clara held firm in her stance. She decided not to engage in a public debate on social media about the lawsuit, but instead focused on preparing for the upcoming trial. She understood that losing this legal battle wouldn't just threaten her career, it could also endanger the very essence of free television. The day everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. The trial between Clara Williams and Melania Trump was held in a famous New York court, where high-profile cases always draw public attention. Though it wasn't a criminal case, everyone knew its outcome would have far-reaching implications, not just for Clara's life, but for the media industry as a whole. Reporters and cameras surrounded the courthouse, and the public eagerly speculated about what would happen next. Clara walked into the courtroom with a strong demeanor, but her eyes betrayed the tension she felt. In the days leading up to the trial, she had prepared carefully with her team of lawyers, people she trusted to help defend her rights and the values she had championed throughout her career. But inside, Clara couldn't shake the nagging worry. She knew this wasn't just a fight between her and Melania. They represented two different worlds, two opposing views on power and reputation. Melania Trump's legal team, led by one of the most powerful attorneys in New York, made a strong case from the very first moments. They argued that Clara's comments were not just ordinary criticism, but contained clear signs of intentional defamation. They contended that Clara had deliberately worked to damage Melania's image, especially given that she was trying to rebuild her career and public reputation after the scandals involving her husband. Despite rarely appearing on television, Melania couldn't be dismissed as a mere passive figure without influence. She had the right to protect her reputation, and Clara's use of television to attack her personally was unacceptable. In contrast, Clara and her team held their ground. Her lawyers argued that in a democratic society, everyone had the right to express their opinions, especially when it concerned public figures. They emphasized that Clara's comments were not intended to defame, but were simply an evaluation of Melania's actions and attitudes over time. They pointed out that as the First Lady, Melania Trump was not just the wife of a president, but a public figure, and thus criticism of her was inevitable, especially when she remained silent in the face of her husband's decisions that could affect millions of Americans. However, during the trial, an important development occurred that began to shift the balance. A group of witnesses from free speech advocacy organizations spoke in support of Clara. These individuals were not just lawyers or journalists, but also people who had witnessed Clara's bravery throughout her career, fighting to bring sensitive issues to light. They affirmed that Clara never intended to undermine Melania, but simply wanted to raise difficult questions that society needed to face. On the third day of the trial, a surprising turn of events occurred when a previously unreleased video was shown in court. The video depicted Melania Trump at a public event where she was seen interacting with a few officials, but her demeanor was noticeably lukewarm. This video, recorded by a nonprofit organization, was introduced by Clara's lawyers as evidence to support her argument. They pointed out that while Melania maintained a perfect public image, in reality, she did not seem to show any genuine interest or contribution to society. Although the video was not a definitive piece of evidence, it sparked a wave of controversy in the courtroom. Melania's lawyers immediately demanded that the video be removed, claiming that it misrepresented the truth and distorted her image. At that moment, Clara felt a sense of triumph. She thought she had won the battle, believing that the truth was finally on her side. Those in positions of power, no matter how good they were at concealing the truth, could not escape the facts from being exposed. By the fifth day of the trial, the atmosphere in the courtroom had become heavier than ever. The arguments had been presented, but there was still no clear indication that the case was shifting in favor of either side. The controversial video had sparked a fierce exchange between the two legal teams, but it was not enough to change the tide. Instead, a new development was about to unfold, taking the trial in a completely new direction. In a decisive moment to shut down any attempts of opposition from Clara, Melania's lawyers presented an unexpected piece of evidence. A series of emails allegedly from Clara's media team were introduced, revealing clear instructions on focusing on Melania's weaknesses in upcoming broadcasts. While the emails did not explicitly direct Clara to attack Melania, they were portrayed as part of a strategy to stir up negative attention toward her. This evidence immediately caused a huge shock in the courtroom. This left Clara facing a new wave of doubt from the public and the media. Was she truly a victim of an attack on free speech, or had she become part of a well-calculated plan to attract attention from Melania's political opponents? This question not only shifted the perspective of the judges, but also made Clara's supporters begin to question their stance. However, Clara's legal team did not give up. They swiftly rebutted the emails, insisting that there was nothing within them that proved any kind of conspiracy. These emails were simply exchanges between staff members, they argued. Nevertheless, public opinion outside the courtroom began to split. The media hesitated to form a clear judgment on Clara. Free speech advocates stood firmly by her, but many others started questioning Clara's integrity and how she ran her programs. Was she truly fighting for truth and justice, or simply seeking to draw attention to boost her own media value in a publicity war? At that critical moment, an unexpected witness appeared. William Harris, a veteran journalist with past collaboration ties to Clara, was called by her defense team. He testified that Clara never intended to target any individual, but instead was someone who always questioned issues that society needed to address. William shared that in private conversations, Clara had expressed that she never wanted to harm anyone, but only aimed to break down rigid stereotypes and provoke public thought. Although William's testimony wasn't a strong piece of evidence, it carried significant weight. It showed that Clara's remarks on her show were not intentional attacks, but part of the daily work she did where she wasn't afraid to ask tough questions, even of powerful figures. Still, this wasn't enough to fully discredit Melania's side. On the final day of the trial, her lawyers requested the court to make a clear ruling that Clara had violated Melania's right to protect her reputation and that Clara's comments had crossed the line of free speech. They demanded the court not only force Clara to issue a public apology, but also seek a significant compensation for the damage to Melania's reputation. After a lengthy period of intense arguments, the judge spent several hours reviewing all the evidence, debates, and arguments from both sides. Finally, an important decision was made. The courtroom became unusually quiet. Even the whispers faded as all eyes turned toward the judge. Reporters gathered outside the courtroom, trying to catch every word from within. The court ruled that while Clara Williams has the right to free speech, she crossed the line when her comments were deemed defamatory, especially when aired publicly and potentially damaging the reputation of a public figure like Melania Trump. Although there was insufficient evidence to prove that Clara deliberately sought to tarnish Melania's image, her actions were still considered inappropriate in a society where free speech must come with responsibility. This ruling was not only a shock to Clara, but also prompted deep reflection in the media world. The court ordered Clara to issue a public apology on her show and pay significant compensation to Melania Trump. While Clara disagreed with the ruling and felt disappointed, she respected the court's decision. Immediately after the ruling was announced, Clara appeared on her show. Her face seemed tired, but her eyes remained sharp. She didn't shy away from the required apology, but she also made sure to emphasize her personal stance on societal standards. She affirmed that even though she was sued, she would never give up her right to question those in power. "This might be my legal defeat, but it's not a defeat of my beliefs," Clara said on the air. "Free speech doesn't mean you'll always be accepted, but it is a right we must defend." On the other side, Melania Trump also made a brief yet powerful statement. She thanked the court for protecting her honor and image. She further mentioned that she would continue to remain silent and avoid participating in public debates, as she believes actions speak louder than words. After the lawsuit, the public's attention remained intense. A section of the public felt disappointed that Clara had not maintained her strength throughout the trial, while another group saw her as a victim of an attack on free speech. Ultimately, Clara faced even greater consequences when her show's viewership plummeted dramatically. Would Clara overcome this challenge and continue standing firm in her pursuit of truth? Or would she have to reconsider her role in society? Only time will tell. If you found this story interesting and want to know more about the next developments, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with every exciting story.